Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Mark Castle podcast. This is Mark Castle. Welcome to today's episode. As you know, on the Mark Castle podcast, I talk about life, I talk about spirituality, I talk about everyday things, and I'm always really looking. Before I do this podcast every day, I just ask for what might be a good thing to talk about today, and sometimes it comes through me this way, inside, through my spiritual self, or it can come from something someone says to me. Then that gives me the inspiration to have a discussion. And today I was speaking with my roommate over coffee, and he had just gotten off the phone with somebody, and but he had also just checked an email about somebody who's leaving here, leaving where in the area that we live now, and moving to a completely different part of the United States. And in the process of doing that, coming up with reasons to bash where they are now. And I said to myself, that's a great topic. That's a great topic because we have a tendency as human beings, in order to justify decisions that we make, we sometimes, not always, but actually quite often, have to say what's so bad about now in order to justify a future action. A perfect example is moving. I have off and on over the years wanted to move, and I never have. I've moved around the area, but I have actually lived in the Coachella Valley, Cathedral City, Palm Springs for the past 30 years, over 30 years. And there's been a number of times that I've wanted to leave. And when I do that, I start to look at, okay, well, yes, the weather is really crap in the summertime. But there's a solution to that without having to move. Yes, it's annoying to have as much sunshine as we have. And I know people are laughing at that, but it really does get annoying how much sunshine we have. But there's a solution there. And every time I've gotten really close, I've said to myself, but now wait a minute, Mark. Let's talk about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Let's talk about the gratitude part of where I live. I live in a place with not a lot of traffic, very wide streets. All major streets have at least 4 lanes, and some major streets have 6 lanes. And I'm talking streets. I'm not talking freeways. I'm talking streets. This is some of the best medical care in the country if you're older. And particularly if you're an older gay man with HIV. This is some of the best medical care you can get here. As a gay man, it's enjoyable to be in a town with such a large gay population. It just feels comfortable. It feels right. And So why throw the baby out with the bathwater? If I don't like living here in the summertime, I can leave for 4 months. Create my life so that I can leave for 4 months. Make sure I get out of town, just like everywhere, but particularly places like a desert. It's very valuable to get out of town. Living in a town with a larger, older population is also not necessarily always healthy. And so going to LA or going to Europe and seeing all kinds of younger people is valuable. But do I have to make something bad in order to make a change? Or could I just make the change? Could I just say, oh, yeah, this was cool, and now I'm going to move. Nothing wrong here. Nothing wrong here at all. I'm just going to move. I'm just going to go experience life somewhere else. Well, now that's an interesting concept, and I don't know about you, but even my body, who has worked on this a bit, had some visceral reaction when I started talking about that. So I ask you to look at that when in the midst of this conversation. If you're listening out there and I say make a move without any saying anything bad about the current situation, how does your body feel about that? How does your body react to that? That's, whoa, that's tough stuff. That's tough stuff, because I can almost guarantee you that it struck a nerve. It struck a nerve. But you see, when I do something like say, well, this is a horrible place, it's too hot here in the summertime and all of that stuff, to justify my next action, that I'm not living in the moment. And I'm definitely not living in gratitude. And there's an old saying, and it's very true: wherever I go, I take myself with me. And if I leave someplace without having made peace and without having to justify, then most likely, I would say close to 100% of the time, wherever I end up, I'm going to meet the same type of people. I'm going to get into the same type of challenging situations, because it's never about location. It's always about the moment, the present moment. Now, there are better places for some people to live than others. This is a good place for me to live, but I know on some level my body would like me to be living near water. So I take those kind of things into consideration. But the real thing here, because I'm using moving as an example, not as the topic. The real topic here is, I do not have to bash any part of my life to this date to make a new decision about what I want to do. And I can tell you, there a lot of stuff comes up. I'm telling you, I am having a visceral reaction in my chest and solar plexus as I talk about this topic. So give it some thought. Give it some thought. So, what's the next big thing for you? And ask yourself, am I saying, well, this is really bad, so I have to go do this? Or am I saying, oh, it's time to change. This is really great. This is really great. It's time for change. It's time for change. There's a big difference. Thank you so much for listening to the Mark Castle podcast. This is Mark Castle. You can find me at markcastle.net, and you can find my contact information in the description on this podcast, as well as at markcastle.net. So thank you so much. Have a fabulous, fabulous day wherever you are.